Good morning, students. Today I am going to discuss with you the questions and answers of the story We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together. The story is written by Gordon Cook and Alan East. Yesterday I told you this story, and in this story a 37-year-old businessman named Gordon Cook undertook a journey from Plymouth to Australia. In between Plymouth to Australia, he stayed in two places. The first place from Plymouth was Cape Town. Cape Town is the capital city of South Africa. It is a port city. And then he carried out the next phase of the journey. And he went to the east, from the Cape Town. That means to the Indian Ocean. So yesterday I told you his wife Mary, 6-year-old son Jonathan, and 7-year-old daughter Susan was also accompanied him. He also hired two sailors from the Cape Town because there are storms in the Indian Ocean, and he also named his ship as Wave Walker. And finally he faced a lot of difficulty, and finally he just reached to the Isles Amsterdam, and 28 inhabitants were living in the Isle Amsterdam, and it was occupied by 28 inhabitants, and they welcomed him. And students, I told you the whole story. Now today I will discuss with you the question and answers. Now the first question is, how did the writer prepare himself for the sea voyage, and how long was the journey going to be? The narrator procured a boat named Wave Walker, which was highly suitable for sailing on the waves. The boat was 23 meter long, 30 ton in weight, and very carefully built to face all kinds of rough weather. The narrator and his family had spent 16 years training themselves in the sailing skills. They had to sail for 105,000 kilometers in a period of 3 years. Next question. What was the reason behind the voyage the author had taken, and who kept his company on the Wave Walker? Captain James Cook, some 200 years back, had made a sea voyage around the world. The narrator wanted to follow in his footsteps and duplicate the journey done by Captain Cook. He had his wife and 2 children along with 2 master sailors, Larry and Herb Segler, to accompany him in his historic adventure. Next question. What happened on the second day of the journey after the Cape Town? No sooner had they left the Cape Town than they encountered bad weather. The winds had to blow at a stormy speed, and the waves began to rise very high. Their height was sometimes as high as 15 meters, and it became difficult for the narrator to sail his boat, although the boat was well equipped. Next question. How did the writer and his company face the storm? The writer and his company on the ship faced the storm with great skill. They dropped the storm jib and tied up heavy moorings rope across the stern of the boat. They did the drill for the life raft, attached lifelines, and wore the jackets. Thus they got ready to फेस द स्टॉर्म। तो बच्चों ये थोड़ा सा क्वेश्चन थोड़ा डिफ़िकल्ट है, और इसमें पूछा गया कि राइटर ने जो है और उनकी जो कंपनी थी, जो उनके साथ जो उनकी फैमिली थी, और जो उनके जो सेलर्स थे, उन्होंने क्या डिफ़िकल्टी फेस की। तो बच्चों इन्होंने जो है इन्होंने बहुत जब स्टॉर्म को फेस किया और बड़े स्किलफुली इन्होंने इसको फेस किया, और उन्होंने जो स्टॉर्म जिप थी, बच्चों स्टॉर्म जिप का एक पिक्चर मैंने लास्ट में इस पीडीएफ के मैंने दिया हुआ है, उसमें मैंने स्टॉर्म जिप भी मैंने दिखा रखी है। ये स्पीड को इंक्रीज़ और डिक्रीज़ करने के लिए, स्पीड को मेंटेन करने के लिए होती है जिप, स्टॉर्म जिप। तो एक ट्रायंगुलर सेल होता है एक्चुअली, ये शिप में लगता है, और ये मैंने इसकी पिक्चर लास्ट पेज में ये पीडीएफ में डाली हुई है। और उन्होंने जो है पूरे सामान को स्टेर्न, एक बैक पार्ट होता है शिप का, उससे बांध दिया, और फिर इसके बाद उन्हें लाइफ जो रैफ्ट थी, जो लाइफ बोट्स थी, जो स्मॉल बोट्स होती हैं, उनको भी जो है उन्होंने उसकी प्रैक्टिस की उस पर, और उनको लाइफ लाइन्स से बांध दिया। लाइफ लाइन्स रस्सियाँ होती हैं बच्चों, और वोर द जैकेट्स, और उन्हें लाइफ जैकेट्स को पहन लिया जिससे कि वो डूब ना सकें, और उन्होंने ऑयल स्किन्स को भी पहन लिया, एक रेन कोट टाइप का होता है। दस दे गॉट रेडी टू फेस द स्टॉर्म, इस तरीके से उन्होंने स्टॉर्म को फेस करने के लिए वो रेडी हुई। डिस्क्राइब द वेव विच केम ओवर द बोट ड्यूरिंग द स्टॉर्म। द ह्यूज वेव स्ट्रक द शिप ऑन द 2nd January at 6 p.m. The sky became dark and an enormous cloud roaring frightening in the sky seemed to be towering over the boat. This cloud actually was a wave which hit the boat like an explosion. The wave threw the narrator towards the wheel and he was temporarily underwater. This wave was disastrous and destabilized the people on the ship. How did the stormy wave destruct the ship? What did the narrator do to prevent sinking? The entire starboard, ये राइट हैंड पार्ट होता है बच्चों शिप का, उसे जो है स्टारबोर्ड कहते हैं। मैंने इसकी पिक्चर लास्ट में मैंने दे रखी है, वो आपको मैं दिखा दूंगा। द इंटायर स्टारबोर्ड, ये राइट हैंड साइड ऑफ द शिप होता है, ऑफ द शिप वॉज डैमेज्ड बिकॉज ऑफ द इनॉर्मस वेव। द शिप वॉज डेंटेड इनसाइड एंड वाटर वॉज getting inside the ship with each lashing wave. The narrator took a canvas and stretched it across the holes and made a waterproof hatch over them. He hammered it with nails to give it stability. Next question: what did the crew of the ship do after the storm? The crew of the ship spent the night after the storm restlessly. They were working over the damaged pumps and steered the boat continuously. They at same time sent SOS signals, but without any success. It was understandable because they were in a remote part of the ocean from where sending any signal was difficult. बच्चों ये SOS होता है, मेडे कॉल्स भी कहते हैं इसे। इसका सेव आवर सोल्स, यानी कि कोई जब वो बीच में इंडियन ओशन में थे तो दे फेस्ड ए लॉट ऑफ स्टॉर्म देयर, और इसलिए उन्होंने जो है सिग्नल्स भेजे, रेडियो सिग्नल्स होते हैं, ताकि नियर बाय कोई शिप होगा तो उनकी हेल्प के लिए आ जाएगा। बट क्योंकि वो रिमोटेस्ट पार्ट में थे सी के, तो इसलिए वहाँ पर ऐसी कोई गुंजाइश नहीं थी, कोई ऐसा शिप उन्हें या कोई बोट उनकी हेल्प के लिए नहीं आई। नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, व्हाई डिड द नरेटर फील दैट देयर रिस्पाइट वाज शॉर्ट लिव्ड? On January 4, after 36 hours of non-stop pumping, they reached the last few centimeters of water. Now they had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. They could not set any sail on the main mast, so they hoisted the storm jib and headed for the islands. They ate their first meal in almost 2 days. But their respite was short-lived. At 4 p.m., black clouds started building up behind them. Within an hour, the wind was back to 40 knots, and the seas were getting higher. The weather continued to deteriorate throughout the night, and by dawn on January 5, their situation was again desperate. Next question, which remark of Jonathan is the essence of the entire episode and how? The remark which forms the lesson's title, "We are not afraid to die, ... if we can all be together," indicates the fighting spirit, the ray of hope and optimism in Jonathan. The narrator had actually gone down to pacify the children, but got energized by his statement and fought against the storm bravely. As is visible in the story, being brave and showing togetherness in crisis is the essence of the lesson. तो बच्चों, मुझे उम्मीद है कि आपको ये बात समझ में आ गई होगी, क्योंकि बिकॉज जो जोनाथन था उसने जब उसके पापा उनको थोड़ा कंसोलेट करने के लिए वहाँ पे आए, तो उसने कहा कि पापा, वी आर नॉट एफ्रेड टू डाई इफ़ वी आर ऑल टुगेदर। तो जो उसने टीम स्पिरिट जो शो की, तो उसके बेस पर ही इस लेसन का नाम वी आर नॉट एफ्रेड टू डाई इफ़ वी आर ऑल टुगेदर। बच्चों, ये 6 ईयर ओल्ड बच्चा था, और इस उम्र में बच्चे घबरा जाते हैं, खासकर जब सी स्टॉर्म को देख करके। तो लेकिन बट इस बच्चे ने अपनी हिम्मत नहीं हारी और बड़ी ब्रेवली अपने फादर को जवाब दिया, और एक सेंस ऑफ यूनिटी इसने शो की। तो उम्मीद है कि आपको एक क्वेश्चन का आंसर समझ में आ गया होगा। नाउ नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, व्हाट डिड द नरेटर डू ऑन January 6th when the storm got over? When the critical time of the storm got over on January 6th, the narrator took a reading on the sextant. He critically went through the maps, charts, wind speed, and also changes of the course to determine where they were. To their surprise, they found that they were positioned somewhere in 150,000 kilometers stretch of the sea, and were looking for an island just 65 kilometers wide. This thought was distressing. Next question, how was Sue and Jonathan bring about cheerfulness to the author? The author instructed Larry to take a course at 185 degrees and then hoped to see the islands they had to go to. Jonathan asked his father to give him a good hug. On being asked why, Jonathan said that he was the best daddy and captain in the world. Sue gave a card to him which had 2 pretty caricatures of her parents. Inside was a message, "Oh, how I love you both." This fostered positive energy in the author. Now next question, justify the propriety of the title of the lesson. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. Challenges faced by the crew during the storm points towards the togetherness and optimism in the face of adversity. During the storm, the best boat, wave walker, buckled into the nature's fury, but the courage and togetherness shown by the crew led the boat to the safe shores. Thus, the title of absolutely appropriate. Is there any message in the lesson? We are not afraid to die. Dot dot dot. If we can be together, all together. An optimistic approach towards difficult times and facing it with cooperation and trust in companions is the message of the story. The narrative is full of incidents which show that the spirit of the crew kept flying high throughout the storm. This was the biggest reason behind the crew's success. Why did the next question, why did the writer feel that Isle Amsterdam was the most beautiful island? Finally, the author Jonathan and Sue found the island Isle Amsterdam in front of them. They simply chorused in excitement as big as battleship. When the narrator gazed with relief at the stark outline of the Isle Amsterdam, it appeared to him as a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation. But to them, it was the most beautiful island in the world, as it brought them so much relief. It held a hope of their survival. Which words uttered by John left the narrator speechless. When the narrator tried to comfort, reassure the children, Jonathan said they were not afraid of dying if they could all be together. The narrator could find no words with which to respond, but he left the children's cabin determined to fight the sea with everything he had. Now, student, we come to the some long answer type questions. Which preparations did the author make for undertaking this historic sea voyage? The preparation the author made to undertake this historic voyage in July 1976 were more than adequate for duplicating the voyage done by Captain Cook some 200 years ago. The author had prepared a sailing boat, Wave Walker, to the finest details. It was 23-meter long boat, 30 ton in weight, and equipped against all kind of bad weather at sea. Many hours had been spent by the author and his family sailing in the British water so that they could sharpen their sailing skills. They had tested this boat in all weather conditions. The voyage was as long one, and they had to cross the roughest ocean, that is the Indian Ocean. They took 2 more crewmen to help them. One was American Larry Wiesel and the other one was a Swiss Herb Segler. These preparations were good enough to steer them through the path they had described to take. So now next question, students. Before the enormous wave struck the Wave Walker, what was the weather condition? How did it slowly worsen? The first part of the 105,000 kilometers voyage was not problematic. They sailed southwards on the western coast of Africa up to the Cape Town. As they left the Cape Town on the second day, the crew faced bad weather with the waves rising very high. The wind speed was quite a lot, and the size of the waves was 15-meter high. The weather was quite foul, but still they were able to cover 305,000 kilometers in the east of the Cape Town. On the 2nd of the January, the waves rose very high and began to toss the ship. The ship climbed on top of the waves, and from there the entire sea appeared to be rolling to engulf them. The waves struck the deck and hurt the eyes with their spray. They then dropped the storm jib and tied up a firm mooring rope across the stern of the boat. After this, they went through the entire life-raft drill, wore life jackets, put on their oilskin suits, and prepared physically and mentally for the storm to hit. Describe the destructive caused by the storm to the boat. Answer. The ominous silence which was in atmosphere before the storm was very frightening. The sky became dark and a loud roar made them shiver. They saw a large wave covering the sky behind them, and very soon the boat was shaken up with an explosion. There was big gush of water rushing all over the deck. It threw the narrator towards the boat's wheel, which made him lose his consciousness. Broken pieces of wood and bars, etc., were floating in the water. The whole of the starboard got smashed inwards, and the boat had become imbalanced. There were clothes, crockery, tins, and toys, etc., floating everywhere. The electrical pump which could throw water out was short-circuited, and they could not get the standby pumps. The debris of the ship items had blocked the hand pumps, and therefore there was chaos everywhere. The narrator saw the end of their journey and their lives also in front of his eyes. Now, next question. Which measures did the writer and his crew take to combat the situation of emergency during the storm? Answer. The steps had to be taken immediately to take charge of the situation. The writer got a hammer, some nails, and stretched pieces of canvas over the big gaping holes on the boat which were letting the water in. He gave immediately mayday calls for SOS help, but there were no replies because they actually were situated very far away in the ocean. One electric pump was found under the chart room floor. It pumped the excess water in the cabin. The second flash of the storm made the situation worse. The mast, forestay, the dinghies, and the main anchor had been completely smashed, and the wave walker lost its strong hold against the storm. But the author, his family, and the other two crewmen showed togetherness and courage in adversity. Hence, they were able to take control of the situation. They decided to protect the weak starboard with an improvised anchor of a thick nylon rope and 22 liters of the paraffin. Although the crew felt that the death was close by, but the next morning, when the gale had quietened quite a bit, they all felt better for not losing hope. Next question. What behavior did the children, Sue and Jonathan, display in the time of this natural calamity? Answer. Sue and Jonathan became the example of optimism during the storm. They set examples of cheerfulness in hopeless situations. When everything was on the edge of devastation and death, they brought in laughter and simple joy. This gave a lot of renewed strength to the crewmen to fight against the storm. When the author woke up at 6 p.m., Jonathan came to him and asked to give him a big hug. On asking the reason, he said to him that he was the best captain and the best papa in the world. This made everyone happy. So also, after getting a very bad bump on the forehead, had managed to make two very pretty caricatures of her parents on a card. This touched everyone's heart. So announced the finding of the Isle Amsterdam, and thus their ordeal almost came to an end. The children's bravery and preparedness to fight the calamity with courage is rare to be seen. It was Jonathan only who said that they were not afraid to die if they all could be together. Now next question. Is there a message in the story justify the title? The title of the lesson, we are not afraid to die. ... If we can all be together, clearly expressed the message of story. The statement, in fact, was uttered by a young Jonathan, who very naturally muttered the essence of life. A people The statement, in fact, was uttered by a young Jonathan, who very naturally muttered the essence of life. If people are together in their efforts at the time of adversity, they can subdue the problems in no time. The writer is on his sea voyage of 105,000 kilometers around the world, a voyage done by Captain Cook some 200 years ago. He, with his family and two other crewmen, prepared his boat Wave Walker to face any kind of bad weather at sea. His boat was equipped with most modern systems so that even in an odd weather it could be steered out without problems. But all his systems failed and gave way in front of the frightening storm which they encountered 2 days after leaving the Cape Town. What eventually steered them through was the fighting spirit of all. Beginning from the captain to the children, Sue and Jonathan, everyone was full of hope and optimism. This is why the title of the lesson is absolutely appropriate. It is more important to have mental courage than just to have a physical strength. बच्चों, इसके बाद ये एक शिप की फ़ोटोग्राफ है और इसमें आप देख सकते हैं कि मैंने इसमें आपको बता रखा है, दिखा रखा है कि देखो बच्चों इसमें क्या क्या है। इसमें एक मेन मास्ट है। मास्ट ये एक पोल होता है, एक पोल होता है। ये जो पोल है इसको हम स्टॉर्म जिप कहते हैं। और ये एक जिप होती है और ये मेन सेल होता है, ये बूम होती है। बूम के ऊपर ही ये सेल को जो है रखते हैं, उसको लगाते हैं। और इसके बाद बच्चों ये जो है इसके बाद स्टेर्न है बच्चों, ये बैक पार्ट ऑफ द शिप होता है, और एक रडर होती है, रडर भी बैक साइड पे होती है, ये स्टेर्न के पास ही होती है। वो इसका फ्रंट पार्ट होता है बच्चों, ये स्टॉर्म जीप है बच्चों, और ये मेन मास्ट है, मेन सेल है, बूम है, और ये टिलर है बच्चों। ये इस तरीके से ये इसकी इमेज है, ठीक है। और आई होप सो कि आप ये लेसन बड़ी अच्छी तरीके से समझ गए होंगे। और कोई अगर डिफ़िकल्टी होती है, यानी क्वेश्चन होती है, कोई अगर प्रॉब्लम होती है, तो आप मुझसे व्हाट्सएप के थ्रू पूछ सकते हो, फ़ोन करके पूछ सकते हो। और बाकी क्लास में जो क्लास आपको लगेगी नेक्स्ट जो वर्किंग डेज पे, तो आप मुझसे पूछ सकते हो। और विद दिस आई कंक्लूड दिस वीडियो। थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर लिसनिंग एंड हैव अ गुड डे एंड हैव अ गुड लर्निंग।